Alright, the button has been pressed. Now to see if it's
Was it?
actually doing anything. I always like that when you're like pressing start on a live stream before doing anything, before YouTube, and like no matter how much I do this, I'll just always doubt that YouTube will actually not do me dirty. But no, we're live. Hi everybody. Welcome to Shin Megami Tensei Network live. Link 310, the pre-Anime Expo extravaganza. I'm your host, Spencer Presley, and joining me today is the entire Game Corner shop, formerly known as Jodie. How's it going?
I'm still known as Jodie. I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, but you know what I've been thinking about recently? I was just thinking to myself, I was like, what can I do to, like, fly to Japan and find out who was the Yoko Ono of Genki's life? Like, who can I be most mad at that I don't hear you and Genki talk every week now? That's what I need to know.
I would say Genki, but don't be mad at him, please, please.
Genki is his own Yoko Ono.
Yeah, Genki, Yoko Ono. Well, maybe he has a Yoko Ono. I don't know.
That's
But
true. Those kids had to come out of somewhere, and I'm pretty sure they weren't coming out of him.
we're going to talk about any of Genki's personal life, but he has obviously, his own personal stuff going on. They wasn't able to commit to doing the weekly show anymore, but the door is always open for him to come back anytime he has time.
Well, I only have to joke because I thought of I thought of him recently, and I forgot to bring it up when I was last on your show, that you needed to drag him on after Keely's show, only for him to talk about what he thought about playable Red 13. Because now every time I only see Red 13, I just think of him because he's had that as his like Twitter icon forever.
Oh yeah, the OG Red 13. He's probably like super excited. He's probably going up the wall and into orbit. He's so happy. So yeah.
Well, you know who's even more excited? Everybody listening live, because you're here, Jodie. So Jodie, what?
Hello.
You've not been here in at least probably 900 years. I think that's how long it's at least felt like 900 years. But what have you been up to?
Nothing exciting really.
Very wrong. You're already lying to everybody. This has been so long. You've gone from you abandoned Twitter to now moving over to YouTube. You've had many things happening.
You noticed the Twitter abandonment. Yes, Twitter. There's been some changes in Twitter that have not been favorable, and it was the impetus for starting the YouTube channel in the first place. For those who don't know, I'm just a random person, okay? I'm just a random Joe Schmo. Joe is in my name. I'm literally a random Joe Schmo. And met Genki on Twitter. Genki is Genki_JPN. You might know him. He lives in Japan and he talks about Japanese games, video games, everything. But a year ago, we used to be in the Twitter spaces a lot, and then we just thought, why don't we just do our own space together? Like, so we did our own space together. And I think in like maybe the very first or the second space you came in, Spencer, and I was like, oh my god, it's this Spencer!
Was it that early?
Yes, it was seriously. And you know what you said when you came in?
No, I actually don't remember. What did I say?
You said, oh, is this like a regular show? Is this like a professional regular show? And we laughed. It's like, no, it's the second time we've done this. But maybe we should make it a regular thing. And because of what you said, we did make it a regular thing after that.
I'm glad to hear that, because I legitimately, I do remember popping in, and it just felt so natural, like you guys had been doing this like weekly for weeks already.
Oh, it's like the second one. And like you gave us the little push, I think, to make it a regular show. And after that, we did the show like almost no. I mean, I had a break over like Christmas for like over, it was like 6 months consistently. From like June of 2022 to the beginning of 2023, and that's when all the stuff happened on Twitter. Basically, just 1 week, the Twitter space wasn't working at all. It's like, oh, what's going on. It doesn't seem to be on. I turned out the new management, Elon Musk, he got owned in the Twitter space, so therefore he decided to turn it off. And I said, this is too volatile here. You know, we can't even easily save our space. All those spaces are lost to time, by the way. So apart from the first 3 that someone saved for me, all of them are gone. Because Twitter only saves stuff for like 30 days, unfortunately, so they're all gone. And there was no like simple way of saving them. So, you know, I said, let's just finally start this YouTube channel. We do it on YouTube. So we started on YouTube, and then after a couple of months, that's when Genki said, "Look, I'm really sorry, I can't do this. Things change, you know, life changes and so on." So you gotta understand, it's like there's a giant time difference, right?
Well, yeah,
I'm in London.
Even you and I, yeah, that was what the funniest part about the show would be, was then popping in there, talking to you 6 hours ahead of time, and then talking to him 12 hours ahead of time.
It's wild. It'd be so much easier if the Earth was flat. If the Earth was flat, we just wouldn't have to deal with this nonsense. But unfortunately, we don't. So, yeah. So yeah, that's what happened. And after Genki said he couldn't do the show regularly anymore, decided to change the name, because up until then it was just called the Jodie and Genki Show, because I just cannot think of names. Spencer, apparently your audio's low.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Yeah. So, what was I saying just then? Oh yeah, decided to change the name of the show because it was just called the Jodie and Genki Show. Because I can't think of names. So had a long think. And Mousy, who's in chat, helped me for a minute. I just like brainstormed and like what can what name, what can I change this to? I can't think of anything. And Mousy said something about like a corner shop or something like. She said something like that. But I said, oh, what about game corner shop, right? So as in like a game corner, like a Japanese game corner, right? That's what they call the little arcades in Japan. And a cross between a corner shop is what? A corner shop is basically a local convenience store, or I think sometimes they're called bodega. Is it bodegas?
Yeah, bodegas.
Bodega in the US, basically. So like a traditional British corner shop and like a Japanese game corner, just cut or game shop, like just mashed together. So, and it's like, because we talk shop, we're talking about the games industry. Games specifically video game sales, and even more specifically mostly Japanese video games market, which is so niche and so specific. We have a teeny tiny but very, very dedicated audience. So what I find funny is then, by thinking about it like that, you're in a way, you are like a bodega cat. You're the Jodie bodega cat. Oh, that's do you know, I only learned that was a thing recently, that there's like cats in bodegas. Yeah, that's not a thing here. I literally learned about that really, really recently. Yeah, you could say that. So like, if you walked into like a convenience store and you just saw a cat there, would that be like super weird for you? It would be unusual in the UK to see that, yes, because like normally no animals are allowed in any like. Even here, I'm sure I break some like health code violations for sure. Probably. But it'd be cool if I saw a cat in a convenience store. Yeah. But yeah, that is cool to know, like the origin of the name for sure. So for you though, what have you been playing recently? Like, we're right now. I didn't realize 2023 was going to have 9 million games coming out all the time. Yeah. But like, it's really hard to just have one thing to be playing. But what's been keeping you busy? So the last thing I played, and I haven't been playing as much as I used to, just because I've been kind of like self-studying, teaching myself Japanese, so that's kind of taken up time. But the last thing I played was a Final Fantasy 16 demo. I thought it was amazing. What a great demo. I really, really loved it. Just great stuff. And I was expecting Spencer to be playing Final Fantasy 16 this weekend, but no. DPD, the courier service, had other ideas and decided just not to bring it, basically. I was in when that was supposed to arrive. They said it was coming, but they give you like a window. It was like between 1:30 and 2:30 or something like that in the afternoon. I was like, excellent. I've got to go out this evening, so it's gonna come in the afternoon. Fantastic. Gonna get my a big fat giant ass collector's edition. It'll cost me like £300, right? And so I'm waiting there, and the next thing I see the tracking thing. Oh, it's coming. Da, 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 fantastic. Next thing I know, it says, "Oh, you wasn't in. We're taking your collector's edition to like a local store, like a store that's a mile away from me." Oh, hang on, excuse me. And so I check on the website and everything. There's no way to complain. There's no way to like have it like rerouted to come, to deliver back. And the delivery driver didn't even come to my building. I live in I live up on the 10th story, right? So you have to ring the buzzer. I can't see who's like coming, right? They got to ring the buzzer. They didn't ring the buzzer. The buzzer did not ring. I know they didn't even come to the door because, for one thing, the door at the moment is at the time he came anyway, it was busted, right? So you could have just walked in and just come in. They didn't leave no calling card, no nothing. I do not have my collector's edition, and I could not go and get it. I can't go and get it until next week now because I had my show on Friday and just like stuff, other stuff going on. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to play it, but I did really like the demo. I thought it's fantastic. I was really I don't know what expectations I had, but I was just I was just impressed with just the presentation. The music was stunning. It was just really well presented. The only thing that's like for me personally is might be a little tricky is the actual the combat. And I did use one of the you can equip these rings of like I equipped one that helps you dodge, right? So that's just because of my own like my health issues and the medication I'm on and stuff. I don't have good reaction times.
Oh
So
no, yeah, for sure. But
I
I mean
loved it.
that super sucks. But I mean, if it makes you feel better, I also have not. I have it. I shouldn't have bought. Oh yeah, but oh yeah. Don't get jealous. I was gonna say because I forgot you, me, and Genki had all like scrambled to go and order the big fat,
Yes.
horrendously expensive collector's edition.
Yes.
And
Overpriced.
then I forgot to mention I canceled it.
Oh, you did. You cancelled it.
Look, I'm gonna be honest with you. I may not be known for making the most solid financial decisions of my life, but even I'm smart enough to know.
Oh my god, if Spencer cancels it, then you know.
Not a great time to spend like $400 on some plastic. So I was like, well, I think I'll be fine if I just get the deluxe edition because I mostly just wanted the game and the steelbook. But then even on top of that, what's funny is like I still need to beat Zelda and I still need to beat like Resident Evil. Like I'm so behind on so many other games, but it was like the demo was so good. I was like, I gotta put all this down and just get around to playing it. And I'm not very far out of the demo, but I will say. I'm super bummed you haven't gotten yours yet. I hope it arrives at least safe and sound. But what? No,
I've got to go and get it. That's the worst thing. I have to go to the shop and get it.
Well, that's what I mean, though. I hope at least when you get there that it didn't like get damaged at all during transit.
If that goddamn giant ass Baphomet and Phoenix statue has been damaged at all, the heads are gonna roll. I'm gonna be really mad. There'll be stern words.
You're gonna like look at the delivery man and you're gonna do what Ifrit did to Phoenix at the end of that demo.
Oh no.
But Final Fantasy 16, not spoilers aside, I do want to say though a little because I've been telling everybody, been getting ready for Anime Expo and stuff, and I still can't believe it's literally like a week from now, less than a week from now, we're gonna be over there.
Exciting.
Extra exciting, extra nerve-wracking, but like it's the funny things too of like the housekeeping of stuff we got to do because we're going out there primarily to cover the concert. So they're doing a concert.
Yes.
They're having the big 30th anniversary SMT. I assume it's all the same people who were playing in the Japanese one are being flown out here and going to be doing stuff like that. But what's so funny about it is then like, oh, but then also we'll be just at the convention doing panels and covering panels and stuff like that. And I now get to tell everybody good and bad news. In the infinite wisdom of the lovely, lovely folks at Anime Expo who run the convention, our panel is on Monday night, July 3rd, 7 p.m. The exact same time as the Atlus Persona 3 panel.
Wait, what? That's dumb.
And what was funny was, I didn't know until someone at Atlus reached out to me and asked if I knew about this.
Oh no.
So someone had reached out to me and went, "Did you know that your SMT panel, because basically our panel is all about the 35th anniversary of Shin Megami Tensei, and then for some reason it got thrown in at the exact same day and time as the remake panel, and I'm not that sad. Like, I would love to be there, but it's just kind of funny that, like, nobody thought about that during scheduling at all, and I reached out, and I've already emailed them, and I said, hey, if you could change this, that would be great. But, like, it's literally less than a week away. Like, I'm sure they have, like, booklets printed or whatever, but I just thought, like, that was so funny that no one thought of that, like, crossing.
Oh, darn.
So, like,
that's a bummer. That's a bummer for sure.
It's a bummer, but, like, what'll at least be funny is now I think on Monday I'm gonna have a video go up. Basically, we'll just do some light social media poking fun of each other of me, extremely not popular commentator online, versus Atlus to see whose panel will be more popular, because we all know the Persona one will definitely be sold out, but what will be funny is, like, I should just try and treat it like we're going to be remotely close at all, because really my only hope is that now anyone who shows up is just going to be a diehard SMT fan, maybe hates Persona, or couldn't get into the Persona panel, so they thought, oh well, I better go to something, and this is the next best thing.
It's gonna be fans of both who want to go to both, so that's unfortunate, but yeah, I guess it will filter out. You get the real fans. It filtered them all out.
It'll just be extra funny, especially because I've been planning on, like, recording them and stuff as well. So hopefully if you are planning on not going to our panel, the only way I will accept that is if you record the Persona 3 panel for me, because I won't be there. I had a lot of very sneaky, fun things planned for that panel, but that is all right. I can allow that. But don't worry, I do get to go to the Persona 5 Tactica panel, which I'm sure me and all 5 of their other fans are excited for. But
no, it's not out yet. No one can be a fan of it if it's not out.
Well, yeah, but it still says Persona 5, so it'll still probably be pretty crowded. So that's a little update, but I will say, at least to my knowledge, I don't think the Atlus panels will have prizes. Our panel will have not only multiple prizes, but we'll actually have exclusive prizes that Atlus themselves don't have to give away, so that'll at least be nice. But I don't want to promise anything else, because then, like, I would say what the specific prize would be. I'd bring it with me in my luggage, and then I'd lose my luggage, and then have no prizes to give, and then it'd be extra sad.
Oh, yeah, well, it sounds good.
But yeah, so excited for Anime Expo. Have a lot of stuff to cover. I'm going to be trying to film and record as much as possible. Interview a bunch of old, new friends of the show will be there. I didn't realize how many voice actors and, like, game people go to this thing. Like, I was like looking at the guest list, and I was like, oh, Yoko Taro's going to be there, just hanging out. Don't know why, but Yoko Taro will be there. Yeah.
Maybe he's promoting those. What was that game called? It looked like cards or something.
No, it's not those ones. But I will say it would be pretty funny if they finally announce a Western version of that Sega game he produced.
Oh, what's that?
It's like a rail shooter where your old arcade IPs from Sega as, like, waifus. It's like a gacha shooter waifu game.
Sounds wild.
Oh, yeah.
I'll have to Google that.
But yeah, so yeah, I am nervous, excited, and optimistic all at the same time. But also, again, if you're not in LA or around LA, do not feel bad, because, like I said, I'm going to have all of this getting recorded and uploaded as quickly as possible. But if you are in the LA area and aren't able to go to Anime Expo, like, I didn't know this, but Jodie, how much do you think a weekend pass for Anime Expo costs?
Oh, I would say in pounds, it'd probably be a couple of £100, or maybe like $250.
Oh my
If I
god,
had to
wow, you
guess.
you actually overshot it. No, like I'm used to
Oh,
going to conventions and it's like, oh, it's like maybe 60 to 80 bucks for the weekend. Like you get your weekend pass or whatever for it. Yeah, it's like 180 something, and what's crazy is like it's all sold out.
oh, okay. Because I'm thinking in like London prices. Everything's expensive here, like conventions and stuff like that. Yeah. I'm I'm not that surprised. I'm not that surprised. That's the
That's true.
price.
LA prices are probably not that drastically better or worse than London prices, but yeah. So no official details on what we'll be doing for a meetup when, just because our schedule is not even really cemented yet. But yeah, if you are in the LA area or remotely near it and don't want to or can't go to AX, just follow us on Twitter and we'll be posting if we're near any places that are around the convention center to meet up with people. So I know there will be a bunch of like different cosplay meetups and things like that, but just wanted to let people kind of know about that. But dang it, Jodie, we got to get into this show. We got to get into. We're doing a unbelievably staying on topic podcast with the two most off topic people of all time.
Yes. I remember those spaces, Spencer. I remember.
So, first up, because basically the whole topic of today's show, we're going to be talking all about the June announcements from Atlus, and then ending the show with some
Mhm,
questions. But we're going to start
mhm,
off
mhm.
with probably the least to discuss one out there, which is Persona 5 Tactica. I did a whole
Yes.
big podcast talking about everything, but I wanted to kind of get your opinion on because I haven't talked to you about it very much. But Jody, where are you at right now with the Tactica hype? So we know it's coming out November. Terrible day now that we know about Mario RPG,
But
but
yeah, well, yeah, yeah. That's very, very. Yes, I can talk from I like to talk from a sales perspective. That is extremely unfortunate for this game.
but yeah,
That is really
just
bad.
game as its own, like
Mhm.
strategy, tactical RPG, coming to basically everything. What's your fan reaction to it, and then we'll kind of get into like the financial reaction to it.
So, first, I wanted to preface this with saying I have not played Persona 5. I have not played it. Okay. So, I'm not coming with any hype or expectations. The only thing I would comment on it, I think the game looks good. It's got a chibi art style that's kind of like the Persona Q games, but sort of like they're kind of stretched out. You said when you had your live stream, Spencer, you said something really weird about like it was like the Persona Q chibis with some like long skeleton inside.
It's
The
the
skeleton that got
persona.
inside.
It's the Persona 5 character models with the stretched over skin of the Persona Q chibis.
Uh, yeah, that's also creepy. But yeah, I can see where you're coming from. So I know the art style hasn't won over a lot of people. I think it's just because people. Okay, it does seem like it's halfway between the PQ chibis and like the the full size models. So I going the tactical route is interesting. It's obviously there's been like what was it Devil Survivor. What's that tactical one? I forgot.
Yeah,
It's Devil
Devil
Survivor, right?
Survivor is the one that's closest to this in terms of a tactical RPG.
So I saw some people lamenting, saying, "Oh well, this has replaced that now. There's not going to be any more Devil Survivor."
No.
Um, uh, well, knowing Atlas, who it probably is. I think like maybe some of those SMT spin-offs they did, they're now Persona, so maybe this is what they're doing. I don't know. But I have zero uh, expectations, good or bad, basically, for the game. It's a game that I'm probably not going to get day one. I'm definitely going to get it. It might be a buy day one, but I'm probably not going to be able to play it day one. Because
That actually goes into my one of my things I was going to talk about. So we now
yeah,
know a couple of more details about it. So obviously we said it's coming out on everything, but I guess we should be specific. So
yes,
PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Series S, Series X, PC, Steam, and Switch, as well as launching on Game Pass. But what I find funny about it is this reaction. Everyone, not everybody, the proverbial Twitter mob coming out of people coming out and being like, I can't believe it's $60, which is extra funny because if you look at it in Japan, it's even more. Like, um, So I remember talking about this game during the reveal, being like, this will be really interesting to see the reaction when people, like, if they go full price on this, and I feel like they kind of need to explain why, and I still think they do need to, because right now we've really only had 2 short trailers, one little Japanese infographic with a chibi Morgana talking to us, and while the game has a very interesting chibi art style, and actually a great comparison is by Onko in the live chat, it definitely does have a very panty and stocking and 3D art style. It's not a graphically impressive. Oh, Panty and Stocking. It's this pretty popular like anime. If you've probably never like watched it, but like its art style is very unique. It's done by Gainax.
Okay.
But yeah, so if you've ever been familiar with Panty and Stocking and stuff like that, very similar to what that kind of looks like in 3D. But the overall look and presentation of the game, it's very cheap. The 3D models are not very detailed. The world is very empty. It's a lot of big, bold colors and like pretty empty looking environments, even by tactical standards. Because like it's like when people are talking about how beautiful Fire Emblem is, no one's ever talking about the zoomed out map look. It's the zoomed in, hyper detailed battle animations and stuff like that. Like that, most people, or the tea time, like that as well. But it's you don't know about the tea time?
Oh no, okay, yeah, no, tea time, yeah. I thought you said I don't know what, I'm not even gonna say what I thought you said.
Titty time, male titty time with the Fire Emblem boys.
I do think that's what you said. Yeah, no, I know what it is. Yeah.
So, so what's interesting about it is like I think, and we'll get to this later with the metaphor talk. I think this game, the fact that it's coming out soonest is great. I think this is obviously the one they wanted to have the shortest reveal to release time possible. The problem is we still need more information. So people are out there being like, oh, what if it's like 20 hours? Well, what if it's 60 hours? Maybe I don't think the hours is going to be something that like helps us justify the price. But like my big thing, I've like, even for me, of something I've been hesitant on and want to know is like, who's making this? Because right now all we know is it's P Studios.
Right.
I highly doubt P Studios actually making this as the primary developer, but we don't know. Maybe it is. That would actually make me more nervous because it's their first time doing a tactical game, and like we've seen, not all tactical games are made equal and stuff like that. So there's still a lot of information that I think needs to be out there. So like for the people out there who are mad or wanting to know more information, I definitely get. But also, I'm a really bad judge of character for this, in the sense of, what is it? I'm a really bad character always talking about price, because I'm one of the people who actually never get mad at $70 games. Like, I look at Final Fantasy 16 being 70, and I'm like, that seems completely fair. And then other people see $70 for, like, Zelda or Final Fantasy and, like, want to, like, vomit from anger because they can't imagine doing it. So it's one of those things where obviously everyone in talking about price is so subjective, but I'd be curious what you kind of think, Jodie, because right now we have physical pre-orders up all over the world.
Yep.
And I'm feeling very weirdly not optimistic. I feel like this game, to me, even before we knew about the Mario date, I'm like, this has got to be peak least hype I've ever seen for a Persona game. Like, from announcement, at least it just feel. I don't know if it did Persona 3 overshadow it. Did it like just get revealed at a weird time back to like 2 other big Atlus games? Like, is it just the style? Like, because a part of me is almost thinking like I feel like people still wouldn't care that much even if this was the only Atlus game that just got announced, just because tactical games are very hit or miss in terms of how people respond to them. But I was curious for you, like where do you feel like the hype check's at, or even just like the like potential sales check is at for Tactica?
So I should first begin by saying, picking up a point that you said, tactical games are very niche. But they're just full stop their niche. They don't sell. If you make a tactical game, they just don't sell that well. There's maybe a couple of notable tactical games that we might be able to think of, but in general, they are extremely niche. So if you make a tactical game of even a franchise that's fairly popular like Persona, it's still going to be niche regardless. So yes, that does affect the sales, and there's a double thing there, that like it kind of feels like maybe Persona fans were like, oh, okay, this is not what we were looking for or what we expected. And then maybe there's another, because I have seen some people complain, oh, the Devil Survivor thing. People saying, well, oh, this means they're not going to bring back Devil Survivor. No, I've got no idea about that. But there hasn't been one of those games for a while. So it seems to be like within like the, Atlus fandom, there's that little thing there. When it comes to sales potential of this game, it does have potential. Um, it's really unfortunate that is Mario RPG, right? Mario RPG is coming out on the same day as this. That is going to have an effect because there is an overlap of audience. There's an overlap of audience, and also because I feel like although obviously Tactica's on all platforms, you do get this issue where sometimes the oxygen of publicity is like limited, and you'll get like more people talking about. So there's probably gonna be like a lot more chatter about Mario RPG, just because just from the metrics I've seen, it's huge. From when I'm talking about the sales potential, I can speak specifically about Japan, because that is kind of like my whole thing I talk about. This game does strike me as something that's going to launch that first week sales like under 100k. I don't know. It might be. It might get like it might get a Persona boost. Obviously, it's on Switch, which is like 90% of the market there, so that instantly doubles its sales of potential of what it would have been. But even then, it's still and you got a double issue of Mario RPG. It's if compare it to something like, what's the game that came out recently?
Caligula
try.
2.
No, I wasn't. No, something that's more comparable. Triangle Strategy.
Yeah, no. Here's an actual better one, because that had the Nintendo book to it. Diofield Chronicles. That's a great comparison.
That's a terrible comparison, because that flopped. That flopped hard.
Oh yeah.
That game didn't in it, and it wasn't like in the same like it wasn't like a. It was like a more like real time. Yes. Triangle Strategy is a good comparison, because I'm talking about Japanese sales, right? So Triangle Strategy launched at around 80k, around 80k, or something like 80, 86k, something like that. I'm just trying to remember off the top of my head. So if it could reach that would be a good result, because of the nature of the genre. Now, as to what Atlus is expecting for this like lifetime worldwide, maybe they're hoping from like between 500k to 1 million. Is probably what they're hoping for. But that's just me mulling it over and kind of guessing.
Considering we've only ever had 2 spin-offs ever get over 500k, I think we'd be lucky if this breaks 50, realistically, even with all the platforms it's on.
50k?
Well, yeah, because
it'll sell more than 50k. What lifetime?
I hope it, but it's just one of those things where like we look at those games from like in the Japanese sales charts. Every spin-off before Persona Q pretty much never broke 200k until Arena, and then Persona Q was the first really big one, because it was like right place, right time with the 3DS, and then the only other one that finally broke that in terms of sales blowing up was Persona 5 Strikers. But like you look at Persona 5 like Dancing, or Persona 4 Ultimax, and other ones like that, where whether you liked or hated those games, the spin-offs are just so hard to gauge where the fans will sort of be at. And like something like Q was a great example of that. Was a good home for that system. That was a game people really wanted, even though they didn't know that it was something we'd never really seen before. Strikers was like, hey, this is the sequel to Persona, so like that's an easier sell. Whereas this one, I feel like, is already an uphill battle. Whereas, like, if it wasn't for the fact that it was on Game Pass, I would be like, oh yeah, there's a really high chance that this game just flops. Whereas, like, I wouldn't be shocked if Atlus probably made this game's development budget back just through Microsoft paying for it to be on Game Pass. Because it doesn't look like an
Yeah.
expensive to make game.
No, it's yeah, no, for sure. It's definitely a budget release. They probably, I mean, they would have started making this maybe 2, 3 years ago. So, when they started developing it, didn't, they wouldn't have been thinking about, get Game Pass. But I think like Microsoft probably went to them like a couple of years ago or something like that. When this was still in development, and probably made like a multi-year deal for all these different games that we're seeing going to Xbox. So I hope that the Microsoft bag does help. But what you were saying about the previous games, not some of them not doing that well. I think that with that in mind, Atlus shouldn't have too high expectations for the lifetime like worldwide sales of this. It's probably low. I don't know. Like I said, it's probably not going to break 1 million, like on all platforms worldwide, like lifetime.
Is it time for another famous round of Jodie and Spencer make a very stupid bet?
Oh my god, Spencer, I still remember you said that bet about Persona 3 Reload
Yeah,
or something.
Reload.
Yeah, I haven't forgotten about that.
Being top 3 most played games on Game Pass when it releases.
It won't, but yeah.
Would you wager within the first, by calendar year ending, so by 2024, would you bet that it sells 1 million?
By end of calendar year 2024.
Yeah, so by January 1st, 2024, will P5T have sold over 1 million copies?
No,
Okay.
I wouldn't take that bet personally.
That's good. That means you're not thinking like me. That means you're thinking rationally. So that's good. That's good.
Spencer, what? Okay, so what's yours then? What do you think?
No. Like so my Persona bet, that's a completely irrational bet. I shouldn't be making that bet, but I do it anyways. I wouldn't even make that Persona 5 Tactica bet because there's optimism, and that's like the most unfounded optimism. Like a great example you can kind of tell about Atlus right now as a company, like I'm kind of shocked we're even getting this as a Western physical release because of how fucking shitty Sega's been.
Yeah. Oh my god, they're so stingy with the releases. You see, like they do. What was the other one? We didn't get physical with Etrian Odyssey. That just came out.
Etrian Odyssey was digital only.
In the
Persona
West,
3 and
there was
4,
no
digital only.
digital only everywhere, and then the Like a Dragon man who erased his name.
The Like a Dragon one actually is stupid because it's like, and the only reason they've done that is because apparently Like a Dragon Ishin sold very bad.
Is that right?
Well, I mean, not very bad, but like very bad by like Yakuza. Like, you know how we think we talked about this when Judgment and Lost Judgment were coming up. Those sold pretty soft. Apparently, Ishin has sold softer even than like Judgment was.
Oh right, I wasn't aware of that. Yeah, so maybe it's like, yeah, because then printing physical when it's not possibly going to sell that much in the West, where the physical market is weaker than like in the East. Yeah, I mean, I can see why they may have made that decision. It's super annoying anyway when you're a physical collector and they don't release physical games. That's unfortunate. That yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, but yeah, last thing that's really come out about Tactica that is interesting is it does look like we are getting the DLC characters in the like day one DLC campaign. Will have Akechi and Kasumi in it somehow. I'm assuming just playable there, although as in tradition you would think, oh well, then if they're playable in one scenario they must be playable in the whole game, but never assume anything with Atlus because that would be too easy. But yeah,
that's the thing, yeah.
So nothing else really too crazy with it. They have like I said, a Japanese-only news series that we'll be probably getting more after Anime Expo or around Anime Expo. Some more updates. So hopefully we'll see it soon. My like random hope is, since Atlus and Sega are going to have such a big presence there, I would kind of hope that maybe they have demo stations for Tactica, because this is definitely one of those games where I think having it playable would definitely help a lot, because they already have...
Yeah, yeah.
They're going to be showing the game. We know that they're going to be showing the game in Persona
Oh,
3,
right, okay.
but playable, I think, would help out a lot. It's just very rare that you see a lot of video game companies kind of go to larger conventions like this, and this is really the only Western show Atlus is going to be at before this releases. Outside of obviously Tokyo Game Show, it'll be there for sure in September.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah. At least last thing for me with Tactica, I want to say, optimistic. I'm still gonna buy it day one. I love Tactic games. The gameplay. The more I see the gameplay, I'm like, this looks really, really fun. I just get worried of it from the like business side of it, of like what will the repercussions, like how will this Soul Hackers 2 the franchise is what I'm thinking about.
Yeah, but hang on, it's a it's well technically a new franchise, isn't it? It's like a new spin-off. It hasn't been a Persona tactical game before, right? Isn't it like a new thing?
The last Persona Tactics game we've ever had was like a mobile game, and that was like a Japanese only mobile game, so I probably
Oh, it doesn't count.
Yeah.
It doesn't count.
Yeah, so first time real tactic game for Persona. But yeah, any final Tactica thoughts?
Yeah, couple of things you touched on. One is who's developing this. We don't know that, where it's like it's. I'm guessing it's an external developer with input from Atlus, but we've no idea at this moment. But I wouldn't be surprised to hear that it's an external developer. The other thing you mentioned was the price. About it's 60. It's 60. I don't understand why anyone's surprised. I don't understand why anyone's surprised that they're charging like a full, like quote unquote full price for this game. I'm absolutely not surprised at all. You know, it's when does Atlus ever underprice their games? Well, no, I only if it's a re-release they did. They maybe because they did it with I feel like they're underpriced Persona 4 Golden when they put that on PC. But that's just my opinion. Yeah, no, I'm not surprised at the price. It's even more expensive in Japan because they don't have like set prices there. It's I'm not sure how much exactly it is in yen, but yeah, I'm not surprised at the price.
It's
the
about
price
79,000 yen.
What's that in dollars? I don't know.
About like $75.
Oh my god, that's really it's just way more expensive there. So yeah, the price doesn't surprise me. They charge what they feel their IP is worth. Basically,
yeah, people should see what Final Fantasy 16 is being sold for in Japan. Speaking of expensive.
Oh yeah, it's like nine. It's like digitally, it's like 10,000 yen or something.
Yeah,
it's like
it's
almost
pretty much
10,000.
almost $100 game.
Yeah, basically, it's really expensive. So I'm not surprised at the price and Atlus, they don't want to maybe they don't want to undervalue their IP. They what the thing you need to remember about their games is that essentially like they make double A games. They're not working with a Final Fantasy 16 budget for their games, right? But they're not priced according to what they cost to make. They don't price their games according to, well, this one costs that much. Let's price that one a little bit. For the most part, they don't, and this is like what some of these re-releases, right? So that's why they're going to be full price if they're releasing them all on platform. Now, if it was like, oh, this was on the Vita back in the day because they were obviously cheap, or the 3DS, then yeah, it would have been like the price because they were a bit cheaper. It would have been the price for those systems, which wasn't like $40 or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it would have been that price if it was only on those systems back then. But because it's on all modern platforms, then you're going to pay that modern platform price. That's just the way it is. Yeah.
Well, possibly more optimistic news, or also could be worse. You never really know. Atlus, one of the things that actually didn't leak at the Microsoft press conference for Xbox was Fantasy finally got a re-reveal in the sense of Metaphor, which, by the way, out of all the games to not leak, I think that actually was definitely the best one that thankfully did not leak out at all. But we learned a lot about the game. There's been a English trailer, a Japanese trailer, and now a like hour long kind of like Persona Stalker Club like discussion about it. And what's so interesting about Metaphor now is obviously we pretty much what we knew was it was the original Persona 3, 4, and 5 team, Studio Zero, their first real game. Obviously, they did the full body version of Catherine, but like their first big full original title, and it's redefining the conventions and norms we think of when it comes to fantasy RPGs. And I think for a reveal, it was crazy. It showed a lot of really interesting concepts. Obviously, heavily inspired by Shin Megami Tensei and Persona. Even to the point where like they were just bringing up the fact of like, yeah, look, the spell names are even still the same. But I thought the reveal was great. I think the way they've been handling talking about it's been very interesting. I wouldn't have expected them to just jump in immediately with that like hour-long kind of deep dive talking about it. Obviously, we learned very little from that hour, and mostly of it we saved toward the very end where the director, illustrator, and composer all talked about it. But some interesting highlights definitely were the fact of how this game changed drastically. Because if you remember, Jodie, when Persona 5 released and they announced they were making Re-Fantasy, they had all this art and music, and it looked very traditional. It looked like a very like medieval era, like fantasy kind of setting. And now you look at this game, and they admitted it, and they're like, yeah, we had to like scrap this game over, and that explains why the silence was so long, because they pretty much had to like kind of start over from scratch. And I think the reception of it from everybody has been very, very optimistic. Like, really, the only negative thing that's come out of them showing that trailer was some people, whether, I guess, I don't know who's the more surprised or unsurprised one here. People were surprised to find out the engine is still being made on the original Persona 5 engine, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, oh well, I'm not surprised. Right?
No, of course. Yeah, hey, if you're gonna,
it started development in 2016. What do people think it would be? They weren't even using Unreal back then.
Honestly,
I don't know. When did they? Maybe they just started Unreal, but
that's the funniest thing with it is technically it started development. I think this iteration of it, from my timeline, would be at the earliest they were working on the engine in 2018 to 2019. Because they finished Catherine Full Body in 2018, and their whole studio was working on it while they were still conceptualizing Re-Fantasy.
So let me correct what I'm saying then. They announced it in 2016. Okay?
Yeah,
I don't know when they started working on it.
They announced it, but like the focus for them was definitely, hey, let's get Catherine done first. It's a smaller thing. It'll only take us like 2 years, and then we'll really start cranking out on this. But what I just thought was so funny was in just being like, when this game comes out in 2024, it's gotta have like some sort of like record or award that goes for it of like world's oldest game that might hypothetically run on a PlayStation 3.
Is that a record for Atlus with their support of old
that original
platforms?
Engine started with the original Catherine, went to Persona 5, went to Royal, then the Full Body, and now we'll be assuming the final game that will be used for it will be Metaphor, but hard to say. I thought the trailer was great, but Jodie, what did you think? Were you surprised when you saw it at the Xbox show, or what's your takeaway been?
Because so we was watching it in my Discord. I was like, wait, what? I was going like that. It didn't leak. I was shocked. Because the way they did it in the show.
What an awful Instagram leak that would have been.
Yeah. I don't know how those two leaked, but this one didn't. But who knows what happened? But I was shocked it was there. I thought the game looks amazing. I don't have anything bad to say about the game. I really love the direction. As you mentioned, it's not like traditional fantasy, right? It's got more of a slightly steampunk, although I think it's meant to be even more modern than it's sort of like slightly modern. There's some things there. There's machines and stuff like that. And I did watch the most of the live stream discussion thing, and they're saying that like some the costume design is like 16th inspired and stuff like that. So I think it is amazing. I don't have nothing bad to say about it at all.
I will say,
In terms of what I think about the game, my personal do I think this game looks good? Am I hyped from this game? Yes. But what I want to get into is the sales. The sales potential of this game.
I'm on two sides of the business part for Metaphor. What's funny is I think Microsoft better be patting themselves in the back for getting this. I think that's a huge game. Like, this is probably up there with when they landed like early announcement rights, and I'm assuming probably also marketing rights as well, with Yakuza 7 in the West, and how like much they really kind of push that and stuff with it. But then the other kind of question will be, well, it's another new IP, and again, one of the most interesting things we learned in that live stream is they are unironically trying to soul hackers this. And they literally even said in the video, we're trying to make this the new third pillar. And what I find so funny is not only did they say that they were trying to make Metaphor the third pillar of Atlus RPGs, that is pretty much Atlus finally confirming that Soul Hackers 2 did not succeed and did not become the third pillar.
As I said at the time, as you'll remember, I was very, very consistent on my thoughts of the sales of Soul Hackers 2. I remember, I think I still have the clip. You came, oh my God, so funny. You came into one of the spaces of Genki that I was doing, and you said that you had heard. I don't know. Listen, Spencer might have been completely. Are we allowed to swear on this? He might have been BSing. Like, I don't know, right? But he said that Atlus's expectations was over 800 or 750,000 or something like that in under a year, and I started cracking up, and I was like, no way, that's not gonna happen, Spencer. No, I'm telling you, you need to, there's no way it's going to sell that much. It's impossible. It's not gonna happen. But yeah, it's not. And yeah, there's nothing to say about the sales of this game. It's not because I don't want this game to succeed or that. I would like all these games to succeed, right? But I'm realistic. I'm seeing the numbers, right? What's publicly available data, and no, it's not going to sell that much. So, that was really fun at the time. But the funny thing is that yes, they did actually say that third pillar thing, and they were referring to Soul Hackers 2. Soul Hackers 2 was meant to be that. It didn't happen. Now, I don't know if you're asking, like, do I feel more optimistic about Metaphor? I can't remember. I'm going blank with this name. Is that what you're kind of what you're getting at?
Oh yeah, just mostly curious. Like, what do you think of the chances of this one being a third pillar? Obviously, this is going to be way more heavily marketed, way more of a production budget is going into it versus Soul Hackers 2. But what I find interesting as well is like looking at the fact of like it's still a new IP. Just because putting from the makers of Persona doesn't necessarily mean it's a guaranteed hit. Like, look at Tokyo Mirage Sessions, look at Soul Hackers, and so we've seen these instances kind of bite them in the ass with other like sales not really living up to expectations. Like, that's why it was such a surprise how well SMT5 did, and a lot of that probably had to do with the fact that it was a very well timed release and a Nintendo Switch exclusive. So, like, the Nintendo bump definitely was helpful there, but then thinking about it in the side of what can they do to really make this finally stand as the third pillar, and is that even possible?
Oh God. Okay, so I listen. I'm not here to give people. I'm not going to sugarcoat any of this and give people like good news. I know people want me to, they're hoping I'm going to say some certain things and things like that. You're going to find I'm not going to say what people want to hear. Now in terms of like the actual game, does it have the chance to? Obviously, we don't know how good the game is, right? On the surface of it looks really good to me, right? Does it have the potential to let's put it this way, to receive a critical acclaim? I think so, yes. Especially considering the team behind the game. But as you said, it doesn't necessarily equal to sales success. I think the thing is that with pretty much with like most of Atlus's games, apart from the most recent Persona games, they're all pretty niche. You mentioned SMT5. yes, it hit 1 million, but I mean that's still it's still a niche franchise. Is at the end of the day, it's never been a huge seller. Persona 5, Persona 5 did amazingly well, and Persona 4 before it did quite well as well. So the problem is like they're not going to be able to. This game needs to sell in Japan, and it's physically impossible for it to do that because they're not releasing on the market leader in Japan. That's the uphill battle that they face at the end of the day. When you've got like, I mean, I'm sure they want this to sell in Japan because they're releasing this on the PlayStation 4 in 2024. Probably it's going to be the second half of 2024 if we think Persona 3 Reload is in early 2024, then this has got to be, there's going to be some distance between it. It's probably in the second half of 2024 on the PlayStation 4, and there's no Xbox One version from what I'm understanding. So that PlayStation 4 version is because they want the game to sell in Japan, and it's basically mathematically impossible for them to for it to sell what they wanted to sell. They probably wanted to sell, I would say, between they wanted to sell Persona levels basically, right? So if we look at Persona, even Persona 5 Royal, Persona, the original release of Persona 5 combined first week sales on PlayStation 3 and 4 was like 345,000. Even Persona, and that was in 2016. 2019, Persona 5 Royal was 200,000. That was a re-release, right? That was still 200,000 first week. So they want this game to sell 200,000 plus in Japan and go on to, I don't think maybe they don't think it's going to sell do as well as Persona 5. I don't know if that's realistic, but approaching, halfway there. You might as well just say that this game is not going to do that well in Japan. You might as well just write that off now. Now, when it comes to the worldwide audience, how this game can do it definitely has potential in terms of sales, but I wouldn't know where it's so hard to gauge a game like this that is appealing to the people I've seen talking about it are hardcore Atlus fans. I've seen anyone else, just general game, or more casual people talking about it, or I've seen like specialist like JRPG channels and things talk about it, but I haven't really seen anything else. So at this stage, because it's so far out, I don't know if I can really put a number what I think it will sell, but I think that because of what Addis has said, because of the time they've put into this to make sure it was right, that they felt it wasn't going in the right direction originally, they kind of rebooted it or soft rebooted it. The names behind the game, the fact that they have said that once again they want this to be a third pillar, then yes, they do want this to sell at least probably as far as well as Persona 5 Royal, between Persona 5 Royal and Persona 5. So they want this to sell millions. Yeah, they want this. I think they want this to sell millions. Yes. Can it sell millions? I think maybe 1 million. This game is.
I think 1 million is definitely believable with the hype that'll go into it from because if I was Atlus, here's step number 1 of what I would do for this game at the very least. Every copy of this game should, physically or trailer, anytime this game is brought up in the West, whether it be on the box art in the front or before a trailer, you should just do what all those Hollywood movies do anytime there's a movie they want people to see and it's not from a property they know. From the makers of blank. Just say from the makers of Persona. You can't don't even say Persona. Just say from the people who brought you Persona 5, this is their next thing. Just play it.
So I'm not about to just play it.
Just play
That's like an order.
Please.
The first part, they actually have the initial marketing we've seen. They've actually done that. They said from the makers of Persona 3, 4, and 5, which is specifically that team. So they've started doing that. So I think they probably will do that going forward with the marketing. Yeah.
But it's just kind of like, because I think if they can consistently keep that up, that will help a lot. Um, just in the sense, because like people, especially attracting new fans, it's like there are so many fans out there who only know about Persona through
Yeah.
Persona
Even now.
5, and even Persona 5, the only reason they know about Persona 5 isn't because of the game selling millions of copies. No, it's just because Sora was in Smash Brothers. Not Sora, because Joker was in Smash Brothers.
It's really hot, okay? You have to understand, like, it's like 30 degrees right now. And I had to think about what you said for a second. I'm like, wait,
Yeah, sorry, I was linking. Persona 6 will actually just be Kingdom Hearts 4.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be interesting. Maybe a bit better game, but um, yeah. What were you saying? Oh, sorry, something good. Joker in yeah, but yeah, probably. I mean, people, yeah. Smash Brothers sold 40 million or something. So, and maybe half of those people got the DLC. So, yeah, I mean, it makes sense that people know Joker that way. Yeah. What was the other thing you just said just then?
Oh no, it was just the fact of like you have to, when trying to attract these audiences, like you can't just expect, oh, Atlus is big now because they have this one big franchise. It really has to be that no, Atlus games still sell extremely um like niche numbers wise. They've just had a couple of
Yeah.
big hits in the way that Sega games do not sell ridiculously well unless they are either mainline Yakuza or Sonic. Everything else sells awful.
True. Apart from like all those Western games that they
Well, yeah,
do
yeah, yeah.
well.
Sorry, Japanese Sega specifically. Like,
Oh,
look, yeah,
Japanese Sega doesn't really make that much, really.
Sakura Wars dead. Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games. That's pretty bad. Like a lot of their like
Yeah,
internally developed games that they do that are not
yeah,
Persona 5, Yakuza mainline numbers, and Sonic game. Even some of the Sonic games were selling bad until Frontiers. Like they got pretty lucky with Frontiers. I was
yeah,
not very confident about that. Although if I was Sega, I bet they were like really feeling confident about putting out Sonic. What is it? Superstars. With the new
Sonic.
like 4-player one.
Oh yeah.
The new, yeah, it
Yeah,
is. Yeah,
it looks really good.
Sonic Superstars.
It looks
It
really
looks
good.
good, but you know what doesn't look good? Releasing in the
Well,
same year as Mario Wonder.
oh yeah. Hang on, it's not coming out the same month, is it? It's this or
Mario
near it.
Wonder is October. When is Superstar? I think Superstars is maybe, I'm gonna say either November or September. Let me look. I have Amazon pulled up right here.
It's gone.
It is not dated, so just fall of this year. So if I was Sega,
Oh,
push that out and do not release anywhere around Mario, for the love of God.
oh no, wait, I remember it leaked, didn't it leak the release date? All
It
people said it leaked.
it might. I mean, it might have, but it's like as long as it's not October, just don't do October, please.
Someone tell me the leaked date for that. I'm sure it was something like it was like a 17th. I can't remember if it was October or November. But yeah, like yeah, don't release it next to Mario Wonder because that would have a very big audience overlap. So it's probably not a good idea. Oh, the leak date was October 17th.
Oh yeah, that's bad. Delay that.
Wait, uh so so Spider-Man and Mario RPG is on October 20th.
No, Mario RPG is November 17th. Mario Wonder is October 20th.
Oh, okay, that's even worse. That's my birthday, by the way, October 20th.
Ooh, I have, I
So
have, I have good news for
first
you if you're a Spider-Man fan.
yeah, I'm gonna go. I haven't played the first game yet. I love Spider-Man, but I haven't played the first game yet.
No, you were like,
Um,
Jodie, you were like, I'm only gonna play Miles Morales. I hate Peter Parker. He's the worst person of all time.
I I like Peter Parker. I used to love Spider. I was really into Spider-Man when I was younger as well. Yeah, yeah, don't release on that day then. If that's true. I'd say don't release on that day. I think the sales potential for that Sonic game actually is really good because I have seen people hype for that game, and I think the four player co-op is interesting. Although my understanding is local only, but
Oh
still,
God, I mean,
it's
would you want to play that online? That sounds like awful with online.
uh, I haven't really thought about it, but I guess it's like it's a faster paced game because you're going fast. So yeah, maybe it's not a good idea, but uh, yeah, yeah,
But
I would
yeah,
move the game faster.
moral of the metaphor story: Sega makes very iffy financial decisions, even with their biggest property. So, I always try to lay on caution of like, hey, just make the safest choice possible. And like they've done it sometimes. Like I remember they were going to well, they also do dumb idea. I was going to say originally Persona 3 and 5 Dancing were going to release almost a full year after its Japanese release date. And it made like no sense, and they found out there was going to be a really big AAA game that comes out in 2019 on the other date they had announced for it. And so they were like, I think it might have been Anthem. I think like it was originally going to release on Anthem's release date, and they were like, "Oh God, we better move this." And so they had good news, everybody.
Oh my God!
And they were like, "Good news, everybody. We're moving the release date of Persona 3 and 5 Dancing to the first week of December." And then guess what else came out that exact same week?
What?
Smash Ultimate.
Oh, no.
So it was just one of those things of just being like, yeah, these are awful. Like and like they've shown to move sometimes, but never more than once. So it's always one of those other things. So Metaphor's big thing of like there's a lot of time, thankfully, for them to read the market and try and really market this game successfully. But I wanted to
Read the market. Atlus is not good at reading the market.
no,
I'll tell you that.
sorry, let me say this again. There's a lot of time for people who are bad at reading the market at Atlus to get fired, and then the new people can hopefully come
Oh,
in and
okay.
market this game.
Yeah, that won't happen.
But my last metaphor question I wanted to ask you though was,
Yes.
does it really
Yes.
release next year, or do you think it gets delayed? Because this team is very
Oh, okay.
this team's very confident in its release date, but also Persona 5 did get delayed like I think 900 times.
Oh, I hadn't really thought about that. Because you had the little poll in there, will it release in 2024? And I put yes, because I thought I thought, yeah, it would release. But now you've said that, I guess it could get delayed, but so you're saying based on like just past precedent that the games have been delayed a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. It could get delayed. I'm thinking it doesn't get delayed. I hope it doesn't.
I also hope it
But it's
doesn't.
possible.
But I would say never though, because you never know what might be something that leads to them kind of wanting to change this one or something like that. So
It's possible, but I at this I think it's too early to say at this moment. I'd say I don't think it'll be delayed, but I honestly don't know.
well, speaking of things that I'm sure will not have any controversial opinions on at all, we're gonna talk about our final game, Persona 5: The Reloaded. It's Persona 5, Persona 3. It's been a day, everybody. It's been a long half day. Persona 3 Reload. Jodie, lay it on me. This game leaked. We knew it was coming out. We didn't know where it was coming out. A lot of people were huffing copium on Twitter, saying, "Just wait for the direct, everyone. Just wait for the direct.
Yeah.
It's coming to Switch.
Yeah.
It's coming to Switch, guys. Just hold on. You're almost there."
Yeah.
Obviously, everyone's interested or excited about this remake for Persona 3, but specifically, one of the big reasons I wanted to invite you on, what did you think about the internet's reaction to this game coming to Switch being inevitable, and now obviously it's not been confirmed that it's never coming to Switch, but it's very clearly not launching on Switch now. So what was that whole journey for you like, and where are you now?
I was consistent from the beginning that I didn't think this game was coming to Switch. You can go and look back at my tweets, look at things I said. People saying, "Oh no, just wait, there's a direct," and I was like, "Okay, but there's too many things that are showing that this is not going to be on Switch." So I was consistent from the beginning that I didn't think it would. And then what was the other part of the question?
Oh, was just the fact of what did you think of people who were like, oh, they're just gonna do what they did last year. They'll announce it at the direct. It's clearly just gonna come later.
So what they did last year was dumb. I mean, that was dumb anyway. That whole staggered reveal thing. People, listen. I can understand why people thought that. Uh, because of the way, yeah, because the way that happened last year was weird, and it it did seem like it could repeat. But there were, I think people, one, they thought that would happen. Two, it seemed like, well, duh, of course we're going to put it on Switch. Like that is what people didn't think. Well, no, it's not. And I'm like, okay, if this was just some other company, maybe I could be with you, but this is Atlus, right? It's not. Spencer, this is the thing. This is not. If this was like the first time Atlus had ever done anything like this, you and I could come and we could see, say, yeah, we could analyze it and say, well, why, and then maybe this and this and that. Atlus is specifically known for making dumbass decisions, right? There's whole ass memes about it. Okay, they make dumb decisions. So to me, it was not a surprising thing. I feel like the writing was on the wall. There was these certain people call them retail leaks, and I said at the time, I think those are auto-generated listings. I think that the people that are doing these listings, they are assuming that the game's going to be on Switch because it makes logical sense. That why wouldn't it be? They just put Persona, the other ones on there. Why wouldn't they do that? Right. So I think it was just people at those, and I think once one did it, some others copied and stuff like that. And then the box art was mocked up. There was different mocked up box art at each retailer. And then the other thing that happened was that there was an unlisted trailer. I think that the actual trailer was embedded in like one of the websites, but it was unlisted. And in the description for Persona, oh God, I'm doing it now. Persona 3 Reload, it said it said Nintendo Switch in there, but you could watch the video, and in the video, in the image where they show the platforms there, it wasn't in there. And to me that was confirmation. It's not gonna be on Switch. Oh, that's obviously a mistake. They've obviously they've copied and pasted or something, or they've just written, or someone just wrote it in assuming it was going to be on Switch. Someone the people that are working in the media department are the people making the game, right? So someone's just done it, assume that if it's not in the video, it's not on Switch. For me, when I saw that was for me, that was confirmation it was not on Switch. Other people telling me, oh no, I'm saying no, it's going to be, look at this, look, you don't know what you're talking about, da 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 da. To me, that was confirmation that it wasn't going to be. The other thing that I felt like why the writing was on the wall, right? We saw what happens with Soul Hackers 2. Soul Hackers 2, at the time when that came, we know now that game basically bombs, right? But there were many people thinking that that this is going to get like a late port to Switch. Now, the game bombing didn't help, but it's like almost a year out, and that game has not materialized on Switch, and I don't think it ever will. And when you look at Atlus and look at their teams and what that they're known to be developing, when they started developing those titles, and this is the other thing what the landscape of the Japanese market looked like at the time when they started developing those games. It was obvious to me that they developed as de facto PlayStation exclusives, no bagging. I know people think, oh, Sony's paying them. No, they wasn't, right? If that was the case, Microsoft wouldn't have been able to walk in with a bag to go and get them on Xbox and do all the marketing and stuff like that, right? Just like Microsoft can't do it for Final Fantasy VII Remake, or because there is an actual contract. That's what I'm talking about, like an actual legally binding contract.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't believe my train of thought now. I'm reading the chat. Somebody said I'm reading the chat. Marcy saying she was consistent. I was consistent. Yes, I never stopped. People saying that I was consistent. Although you were in a Discord, maybe I'll drop a link to the Discord that you can post later, Spencer. My Discord, you can look at in my Discord. I was consistent saying that this game is not going to be. So yeah, well, at the time when they started developing these games. They developed them as PlayStation, de facto PlayStation exclusives, and Microsoft came in and gave them back. They never had Switch in their development pipeline for these games, right? These, as far as I know, because we're talking about Persona 5 Tactica, where we think that's being done by an externals. We don't know, but we think it is, right? So, to me, it was like, okay, so they have no internally developed games in development for Nintendo Switch and never intended to, right? It's not in their development pipeline. They just decided, right, that they do not want to, right? And I know people don't want to hear this. They want to hear, oh no, because someone even on Twitter said, oh no, well maybe Sony made a contract to not put the games on Switch. And I was like, how does that even make any? I didn't even answer that because I'm like, that makes no sense, right? No, that's not what's happened. They're not on Switch because Atlus doesn't want to do it. That's the reason, right? So you're looking at Atlus has made decisions in the past and they've done things in the past that didn't seem to make any sense because at the end of the day, it's human beings running this, and sometimes they just don't want to do things. Does that mean they are Atlus is going to lose sales in the Japanese market? Yes, they're going to lose a hell of a lot of sales. I should bought some sales figures. I prepared sales figures so I could discuss this and what the market looked like at the time when they started developing these games, not including Switch, and what it looks like now, and what it will look like by the time these games come out. Now, the question is, does it matter to Atlus? On like 2 weeks ago on my show, I said, I think Atlus thinks that their game sales are not going to drop in Japan. It's going to be the same. They're not going to lose any sales with it. I'm kind of like revised that a bit. It might be that they do know that it's going to have an effect, but they don't care about they're not really caring about the Japanese market anymore. That's a possibility, right? I can't read their minds. It's possible that they don't care whether they know it's not going to do well there. They know it's not possible for them to sell in Japan. Like I said, Switch is literally 90% of it's at the moment at this time of speaking. It's like 85% of software sales are on Switch. Console software sales are on Switch in Japan. That's just the way it is. PlayStation is just atrophying like at an alarming rate, faster than any of us could have predicted. I think by the time Persona 3 Reload is due to come out early 2024, so it could be, let's just say, first half 2024. By the time that comes out, PlayStation 4 is going to be dead in Japan, but they're still doing the PlayStation 4 version. It's already almost dead worldwide, but by that point, so it could be that they don't care and they're like, well, we're going west. We're doing what Square Enix did. We're going west. What's that song? Go where? They're doing that. That's it. That could be it, right? So I don't know. Oh God, I'm going off on track. Spencer, what did you ask me again? I've forgotten.
No. You put it perfectly. But honestly, like, just some things I would want to add into it is like,
yes.
I think one of the things that makes this really hard and frustrating for a lot of people with the Switch part of Atlus games, whether it be Persona 5 not launching on Switch, Soul Hackers, and now with Persona 3 Reload, is just been things like they need to have a conversation explaining why, not just staying silent. Because if they just explained, we just don't have the development pipeline for this game right now. We just don't have it leads to a lot of people just thinking, oh, well, they must not think we want it. That's the problem. No, they know. They know you want it. If it was up to them, every game would release on everything everywhere. We'd still be getting PS2 games if that was financially possible.
But they run their company like it's 2005, so if they had their choice, they probably would put them on the goddamn PlayStation 2.
EA was doing FIFA up until I think 2011 or something on PS2. Like 2011 or 20, like it was late PS3 when we were still getting PS2 games for FIFA.
But do you know why they did that? Because the PlayStation 2 was overwhelming market leader.
Oh yeah, it is the best selling home console of all time for sure. So I think if they just came out and they had conversations just being like, we are this size of a team, because like other dev teams will do that. Like other teams will be like, a great example is Yoshi P came out before 16, and he said, hey, we were working on a PS4 version of 16. It would have taken another 2 years for the game to come out if we had stuck with it.
He said he didn't say they didn't have the money. He said it would have just taken more
because
time.
again, it's not always a money thing or a technology thing. A lot of it is just, does this make the most sense? And in that case,
I'm glad you've brought that up, Spencer, because we can talk about that now. According to Wikipedia, as of April 2023, Atlus has 338 employees, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, not all they're not all devs, but that is how many employees they have. They're divided up into a number of studios. Now, the thing that I will point out is that if we were talking about, Nihon Falcom or Nippon Ichi Software, I might agree with you, Spencer. I might agree with you. Do you know what? They're just small and they can't do it, and that's that. But here's the thing. Atlus is bankrolled by a mega corporation called Sega Sammy. And they are directly under Sega Sammy. They're not even under I don't know if people know the history of it, but they are directly under Sega Sammy. In a separate subsidiary. They're not under Sega Corporation. You can look up the history of it yourself. I'm talking about people listening. You probably already know, Spencer.
Yeah.
On Wikipedia, and whatever, and what have you, about what happened when Index Corporation went bankrupt, and they were kind of like, it was almost like sold off at auction, or it was like, they had to sell the assets of the company had to be sold, and then they were bought by Sega Sammy, who set up a completely whole separate subsidiary called Sega Dream, right? It's on the Wikipedia page, Sega Dream, and they put Atlus in there, and that's where they are. That's why Atlus are like autonomous within Sega Sammy, right? So you need to think about Sega Sammy, the whole thing, and not just like Atlus themselves, right? They are bankrolled by this mega corporation, which is perhaps why I think they can do things like say, well, we're just not gonna make games we're not just making games on Switch. Maybe if they were like completely independent, they were in a Falcom situation, they would have to, but they have the luxury of not having to, well, as far as they see it anyway, there's as not having to do that. Now, like I said to you, doesn't mean they're not going to, the games are not going to, the games are not going to sell well in Japan, because they just can't. But as I said to you, maybe they don't care about it, but is it possible that they could have factored Switch into their development pipeline? Could they have done this? They could have done, but they chose not to. And if they were asked about if they was to answer like, why haven't we done this, I don't know what answer they would give, other than something what you said, Spencer, like it's just not another development thing, we're not big enough, or What I'm saying is, if they had really wanted to, they could have done. But I feel like they don't want to, because they, like a lot of people were like a lot of people, like including like companies like Square Enix, were blindsided by how fast PlayStation atrophied in Japan, and it's like I said, I got these figures that I can just briefly share as to what has happened since, like, from 2016, when Persona 5 Vanilla was 2016, and then Royal was in 2017, right? So in 2016, I don't have the media create for 2016 in front of me. There's enough time to find it. Although I have the one for 2017 and forward, but estimated was PlayStation market share was like 48% in 2016 when Persona 5 Vanilla came out, right? That was including PlayStation 4, 3, and because Vita was still around, right? It's the market share that they had at that time, and the install base of PlayStation 4 was 3.1 million. PlayStation 3 was 10.24 million in 2016, right? In 2019, when Persona 5 Royal launched, Switch was 60% of the market approximately, and PS4 was 40% of that. I think I have the there about that. PS4 was between 34 to 40% in 2019. Yeah, in 2020, right? Switch is 74.98% of the market. PS4 is 23%, and then there's I know the PlayStation 5. When PlayStation 5 launched, it sold hardly anything. So it's like 0.33%. That's for the whole year. So I'm getting these from the Media Create Top 1,000 for Japan, right? Media Create Top 1,000 for Japan. So it's like the top 1,000 games, which is almost all the games in the market, basically. When you account for the sales, it's the majority of the sales in the market. In 2021, then Nintendo Switch is 83% of the market. PlayStation 4 is 13.3%. PlayStation 5 is 3.1%. Right? 2022, so this is last year. Switch is 85%. PlayStation 4 is 9.27%. PlayStation 5 is 4.97%. Right, so PlayStation 4 and 5 are Switch places. But PlayStation 5 is barely growing. And now, the year-to-date estimate that I have is someone called Nocturnal on an install-based forum has done the sums on this, right? So they using weekly Famitsu data, the estimated market share, like to date as now, as when we're speaking, Switch is 85.9%, PS5 is 9.8%, PS4 is 4.4%, and it's just dropping and dropping and dropping. So what's it going to be by the time Persona 3 Reload comes out? By the time Metaphor comes out? So I'm saying to you, Spencer, like maybe they don't care about this. Maybe like they're not aiming for Japan anymore. Maybe like they are aiming for the West. When these sales come out of these, they're not. I can't imagine I still can't imagine they'd be happy with the Japanese sales.
It's gotta be so hard being a Japanese developer because if you're trying to make these big AAA games right now and you're not Nintendo, you just can't market exclusively to Japan anymore. And Atlus is one of those strange outlying companies similar to Nihon Falcom, where they keep doing it, and like at a certain point they only have themselves to blame, if I recall right. And what's so funny about it was I think a problem that like especially Falcom and Atlus get into is you look at something like Soul Hackers and you look at something even like Metaphor and Persona 3 Reload and go, these could run on Switch. Would it be easy? No. These could run. Like when you have an example like Shin Megami Tensei 5, this giant Unreal Engine 4 open world, and then you look at like Persona 3 and you're like, yeah, I could see that. Like you could make a version of that on Switch. And then it just leads to more people being mad because we're not mad because it's just not there. It's mad because like when you're getting passionate about this, it's like if I came up to you and said, Jodie, I'm really light on cash. I'm going to do a garage sale to try and make some money. And then you come to my garage sale and you notice I put up five out of the 6 driveways leading to my house. They're all locked. You can only come in through one. And you'd be like, Spencer, what's wrong with you? Why do you not have all your garageways open? And I know this is a terrible analogy, but it's basically like you'd be upset because it's like, I want you to succeed. Wouldn't you want the most money possible so you could succeed?
So yeah, I think that's what people are upset about. Now, I should say, for me personally, like I have a Switch, I have a PlayStation 5, I even have a PC. I don't play games on it a lot outside of Final Fantasy 14. But for me personally, I can go and get and play Atlus games, you know, on the platforms that they release on. So it's not like I'm not going to be able to play them personally. And I know for a lot of other people, it's like, especially like, so I've seen some like, hardcore Atlus fans like I think they do want Atlus to succeed, and it's kind of like, especially with something like Metaphor, like a new IP, it's like, honestly, like it's kind of it's more of a uphill battle for them if they can't make this a success in their home market, I think. And just the fact that I like on my show last week we was talking about different we was talking about Addison and what they did in the past. Like I said, I still say they run the company like it's still 2005, but they have this whole thing of just like, this franchise goes on this platform and this franchise goes on that platform, and it's just because that's the way they originally did it, and they just have never changed. They just decided that goes there and that goes there and that goes there and that's that. And so, someone said, oh, but SMT3 was on PlayStation 2, and I said, yeah, that's because the GameCube flopped, right? The GameCube completely flopped. I was like, so I think about it. I said, think about it. Why on earth did they put SMT 1, 2, and If on Nintendo consoles, and then put 3 on PlayStation, and then put 4 Apocalypse and 5 on it? How does that even make any sense? I know nothing that Atlus does make sense, but why does that? It's because of the GameCube flopping. It was like, well, they may have done it on GameCube, but the PlayStation 2 was the only game in town. That was the market leader. They had like 90% of the market in Japan at the time, right? So I said, what they're doing with their games now, with Persona 3 Reload and Metaphor, would be like if they made those games for GameCube. It'd be like making the games for GameCube. I'm not putting them on PlayStation 2. You'd be like, what? Do you not want to sell your games? It's kind of like that. But as I said, maybe Atlus thinks that they can succeed with the worldwide thing, but I think it's a combination of they had no intentions of doing it, and they were blindsided by what's happened with the market, and the fact that even though, like, I should also say that PlayStation has never received any less support when it comes to big Japanese games or games that would appear in Japan. PlayStation 4 had everything. PlayStation 4 even because, but not even PlayStation 3 didn't have Vita didn't have Monster Hunter, right? PlayStation 4 had Monster Hunter, Persona, Final Fantasy, Kingdom Hearts, Dragon Quest. It had everything, and it still underperformed the PlayStation 3, right? So this PlayStation like decline in Japan didn't begin with PlayStation 5. This has been happening since the PlayStation 3, right? So they haven't received any less Japanese support or any less Japanese games or games that appear in that market. It's just that market has just decided that that's not the platform that they want, and it just got to the point where I feel like there was like a tipping point when it comes to games where most Japanese games are kind of like a double A type games, right? And then enough of those games were multi-platform on Switch, plus the Switch has got Nintendo games, right? Where all Nintendo games are now on one thing. We've got Animal Crossing, Pokemon, Mario, Zelda, everything is on one console. That it just became just like, oh well, we'll just get it on Switch then. And it's just like a game might interest them that's like on PlayStation in Japan, like so something that's even if it's multi-platform X-form, it's like on Xbox it's like a de facto exclusive on PlayStation because of just the way it is over there, right? Where Xbox doesn't really have any presence. Even if a game might interest them, they're just like, oh well, it's on PlayStation. I just won't get it. It's like, no, oh well. And that's kind of what I'm seeing for just the market to be this skewed in a way. The market has been this skewed since like the Famicom days. Like, honestly, it's extraordinary. I have never seen anything like this.
No, yeah, and it is so interesting too, because the market is just so, like, I feel like even back then it was still pretty skewed, but around the world, like, you'd have those weird edge cases where obviously PC gaming was a lot more big in Europe and Japan during the 80s and 90s that we didn't really have over here, but even now Japan is just such a polarizing difference for consoles that, like, it makes sense why Sony has kind of made the moves that they have. Another thing I kind of wanted to bring up here before we probably start winding down was,
Yes.
I don't think that it is doom and gloom in the sense of, like, they still have chances to move. Like, I don't think a Persona 3 remake was going to be a game where they kind of change their mind. Like, obviously, as we've learned, Atlus is very slow to making these adaptations and making these changes. But if the Microsoft
Mm-hmm.
deal has shown us anything, is that obscene amounts of money will change Atlus's mind eventually. And I feel like if we're not seeing these kind of changes made by like 2025, now obviously another great example well, now there's a reason for this. A reason, like, if we're not seeing Atlus supporting Nintendo systems more day and date come next year by year's end. Because remember, the big rumor
Which we
right now
won't.
is that Nintendo's next main system will release at the end of next year or sometime next year.
Probably.
And I could definitely see them being like, why should we rush to port all of these games on really old hardware where we could just maybe be at launch and just have a bunch of these games release every 3 to 6 months and have a lot of good backlog support.
Well, I can tell you why. Because Nintendo's next console has an install base of 0.
Oh no!
Right? And the Switch has an install base of 30 million in Japan. I'm not talking about. Let me say, just yes, I think they should support Nintendo consoles, but I'm not talking. It doesn't even matter who makes the console. What this next console? Who's making it? It could be Sega coming and making the next console. Whoever's making it, maybe Apple comes out with a console, right? The fact is, they are not supporting the market leader in Japan. Therefore, their games cannot succeed in Japan. It's impossible. It's just not mathematically impossible. Like, that's all I was saying. They just can't get the sales that they want. Now, as I said, maybe they don't care. Maybe they don't. I don't know. I don't know, Spencer. Maybe it's not that important to them. It always struck me as a company that it's incredibly focused on Japan. So I feel like maybe they wouldn't be happy that these games are not going to sell, probably what they want. I'm sure they want Persona 3 Reload to sell 200,000 to 300,000. It won't. No. In Japan, that first week, it won't.
And the last thing I kind of wanted to say with it was, like, if we're still not seeing those changes by, like, even with, like, in the next, like, let's say 18 months or something like that, I feel like this is just a company that is either a bankruptcy or a buyout away from changing. That they're just never going to change their way.
So I don't think that well, I hope they don't go back. I don't think that's gonna happen. I'm not sure.
None of that goes from me saying that it's going to happen or that's in the cards at all. It's only saying in the way of only an event that drastic is going to get the current leadership to change. Because even in the case when they went bankrupt, Sega was extremely slow to enforcing anything to change at Atlus. And so, like I said, they would have to have a complete upheaval of that company, whether it come from the inside or out, to change its core if we don't start seeing it.
So. I don't think that's going to happen. Like I said, I don't think they have anything. I think that is the end of Switch support outside. You might see maybe there'll be another Etrian Odyssey collection or something like that. But as far as like even that wasn't internally developed. But as far as internally developed games, I think there are no more for Switch for the rest of its life. Because they've basically revealed their games for the next year plus. So I don't think there's going to be any more internally developed games for Switch. Do I think they're gonna change? Probably not. Do I think that all their games are gonna flop? No. I think that these games have potential to perform well worldwide. All I'm saying is that they're going to underperform in Japan because it's just not possible for them. Even if you say, well, okay, the PC market's a bit bigger, like PC, that's not going to make up for what sales they would have got by not putting the games on the market leader. So I you know like I said, I don't think that they or their game's gonna. I'm not gonna definitely wouldn't sit here and say the game's gonna flop. Um, and yes, they have the Microsoft bag as well, or the Game Pass bag for some of the games. Although I think Metaforce doesn't have Game Pass, from
No,
what I remember.
Metaphor, to my recollection, was one that is also Game Pass. But let me double check on that. But keep making your point though.
Yeah, so they have that. Although, like I said, when they started developing the games, they didn't have like obviously Xbox in mind, or so so they were planning to only put them on PlayStation because at that time, uh, PlayStation had a decent software market share in Japan, which it doesn't have right now. So as someone in the chat says, it doesn't help even though you got people wanting to buy Persona 3 Reload. This is Red Hood. Because either it's not definitive, no FMC, all of the original VAs have gone, and you have people. Yeah, I think. That's unfortunate now because the Persona 3 Reload looks really good, and I think that I don't know how Atlus has missed it. The main people, from my understanding, is the main reason people wanted a remake of Persona 3 is because they wanted a definitive edition. There's no definitive edition that has all of the content. It's all these different versions. There isn't one that has all of the content. That's what people wanted. So although this game looks really good, and I think a lot of people will go out and buy it, it's not necessarily what people were asking for, and that's the type of thing where Atlus just missing and not necessarily. They're very headstrong. We're doing this and that's that, and not necessarily listening to the fans. So that's unfortunate. I think that the game will still do decently regardless.
Oh, 100%.
But it's definitely
100%.
Disappointing to some people to not have this definitive version. But for some people, or I should say for a lot of the newer fans, they wouldn't have played those the older Persona 3 games anyway. So they might have played was it Portable because they ported that one. But a lot of people won't have played them, so they probably won't even care,
Yeah, and I mean, like, again, there's still a lot of time for things to really come out with it, because, I mean, obviously, Twitter saying a game's going to bomb is farthest from ever actually proving anyone's point with anything. A lot of people are just going to be excited because now Persona 3 will play like Persona 5, and that's enough for a lot of people out there.
For sure.
Last couple of things I want to get to before I gotta very rudely wrap up. But Jodie, I appreciate you coming on here. We have a couple of questions, and I did want to correct myself. So currently, Metaphor is neither confirmed nor denied for Game Pass. So now,
so it wasn't announced at the time when they
did
the other
show,
ones.
but when asked about it, they've neither said one way or the other. So I think it might be a thing of let's wait and see. Like, let's see.
Okay.
I wouldn't be shocked if right now Atlus is playing the who wants to pay for marketing rights for Metaphor. Will it be PlayStation or Xbox?
Will it be Neo Jim Ryan PlayStation? Yeah, I think so.
Can crying Jim Ryan bust out the piggy bank for poor old Atlus once again?
Yeah. Oh, that modern day Sony is not Sony of.
Also, I love Bad Wrong Fun. I'm sad you can't control your party members, and they are not bringing back fatigue. The one thing everyone wanted to bring back in Persona 3, God, I miss having to poop. I really miss having to go to the bathroom to poop before going into my dungeons.
Oh my god, I've never played Persona 3. Do you really have to poop?
There's a bathroom. Yeah, you got to go poop and pee. You're like, oh no, I haven't gone poop in a while. I better go to the bathroom.
That's hilarious. I'm sure. So someone says, I'm sure Xbox already has the marketing rights for Metaphor. Yeah, I've talked about this. Xbox might have the marketing rights. I hope that they don't have these marketing rights also applied to Japan. That's the only thing I can say
Oh yeah,
about
like
that.
same
If
thing
it's
with Yakuza.
worldwide,
Yakuza
whatever.
7 was only marketed in the West, but Xbox didn't get rights to market it in Japan at all.
Yeah,
So
so I hope that's the case.
it could be one of those weird ones as well. But yeah, rapid fire question time. We've not done pre-asked questions in a while, so I appreciate people actually sending them to us. But we've got first one up from Persona 4E, who we've not heard from in a long time, so I appreciate you writing in. Said, with P3R, do you think the writers and devs will add some more references, scenes, or moments that were added maybe from like the movies or manga or anything else like that? Because obviously they've said this is just a remake of it, but there will be elements from other things added. I think like people are looking into those translations really literally in terms of saying, oh, we're not going to get anything else or whatnot. I feel like, how do you kind of remake a game like this where you're already adding so much stuff? And yes, you're not adding in like the female characters, but like it seems like these like bringing in little fun details people liked from the shows or the movies and like even the manga, it just seems like such a wasted opportunity not to, especially when you're fleshing things out, because we already know like one of the big changes that the game has this time that didn't before is now the entire game isn't voiced, but the story and all of the social links are all voiced, which is a big that's a big jump compared to the old one, because every social link was primarily done through text only. So I could see them adding stuff with it. I know Jodie is probably harder because I assume if you've definitely not played all of Persona 3, you probably have not sat down and watched all 4 Persona 3 movies. And yes, there are 4 Persona 3 movies.
Surprisingly enough, I have not.
It's okay.
So yeah, I'll let you
always,
answer.
there's always time. Let's see. Jago asked a question I put in the chat as well, but do you think, I'm going to kind of change it a little bit. It says, do you think Atlus should delay or move Tactica? So I'm going to ask you, should they move it up and release it earlier than November, or should they release it later, like December in 2024?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
So when is the current release date? Is it October?
No, Tactica is November with Mario RPG.
If they move it up, what's in December?
Should they move it up to avoid RPG / all the other busy holiday games, or should they try to release it earlier and bump up the release date? So you're in charge at Atlus. Do you leave it where it is? Do you dig in your heels? Do you try to release it earlier? Do you try and release it later? What would you do?
I wouldn't release it in October because of Spider-Man and the other Mario game. I would delay it to early December.
Okay.
It's probably what I'd do. I can't think of what. Maybe I'm missing. Maybe I'm forgetting something big that comes out in December. That's
December
probably what I'd
right now is pretty quiet. I actually do think a December release would probably help, but they want to get it before the big holiday rush, before Thanksgiving in the West, which unfortunate, but I do see where they're coming for with that one. I've got a couple left here. This one kind of came up from someone before. Phones on our Discord asked, why do these retail versions of Switch games come out? Like, people have seen, it was on PlayAsia. This like Spanish retailer had it, and I think something that like a lot of people just don't realize how this works is with a lot of retailers who aren't Best Buy, Walmart, or Amazon, they're just guessing. They're just taking random fan art and game announcements and putting a SKU on their website and hoping that someone will give them $60 in pre-order money. Like, they get nothing out of it by not doing it. In the worst case scenario, like PlayAsia especially has tons of things on there. Like PlayAsia has had games on their website you can pre-order that just physically can't come out ever anymore. Like even up until I think a couple of weeks ago on Amazon, you were still able to pre-order Mighty Number 9 on the 3DS.
What?
Yeah, because they never canceled it.
That's so funny.
So it's just one of those things where it's like, when it comes to retailers, yes, retailers do leak things accidentally every now and then, but for these smaller ones, especially like ones you've very rarely ever heard of, and while I love PlayAsia, like, PlayAsia, again, like, it's a rush to being the first person to pre-order, the first place to pre-order, because that means you're going to get most of the money first. Like, even friends of the show Video Game Plus in Canada, Like that's one of their big things is they put up get stuff as quickly as possible. But the difference with VGP, Video Games Plus in Canada, they always make sure that they talk with the distributors first because they know how much they're getting in or they know how much they can pre-order for, and they don't ever like want to burn people and stuff like that because this is a really easy way of burning stuff for yourself. You know?
Wait, sorry. I thought you was going into one there. Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, so I'm it's one of those tough things that it's hard to explain to people while also at the same time being like, oh hey, this is how it is, because a lot of people just see, oh cool, it's up, it's real, or much like the YouTube trailer thing of people just being like, oh it's here, that's it.
Yeah. It's the retailers making assumptions. I agree. Completely agree.
Let's see any other kind of last things here. Kieran Buckley said, never really expected P3R or Metaphor to come out to Switch, but I can still ask, why not get them on that platform unless it's simply too much for the console to bear when there's 125 million players on that platform? Just doesn't make any sense. We definitely kind of covered that in terms of the, like, hey, yeah, I get, like, when you have a player base pool that large, it just kind of makes you look bad not even trying. Like, if Atlus had been putting out ports that just sold really, really bad, or ran awful, and be one thing, but yeah, unfortunately, that case doesn't really work that well with it. MJ Player says, do you think Atlus saying they would give the original, that they want to give the original P3 experience is their way of justifying their way of justifying cutting content that's been released and ways of adding it and more? This is a tough one because obviously someone sitting up here saying, I want to give you the experience of playing Persona 3, the original Persona 3, but with a modern SKU as a remake possible. Like, in a way, I get that. But it's like, you have to kind of know what's the intention. Like, I'm sure everyone on that dev team would love to also include FemC and the answer and all these other story components. But part of it at the end of the day is like, okay, but do we have to? Is that the experience that we as the whole team want to do? Especially because, like, again, let's be honest. What will probably most likely happen is that there will be a remastered or a complete version of this remake because of course there will be. But no, it's just one of those things where it's like it's tough to like say like how cynical is the real answer with it. But I would at least say like even just getting the base game's content, it's more than enough. It's going to justify its price. Also, I keep trying to warn people this. Please prepare for Persona and Metaphor. Persona 3 specifically. Persona 3 Reload and Metaphor to be Atlus's like first $70 games. My gut has never felt more confident.
Well, Spencer, I do have some breaking note, well, not breaking news, but I have something to add. I can actually tell you why that additional Persona 3 content is not in the Persona 3 Reload. And do you know why? Because Atlus doesn't want to do it. That at the end of the day, it might not be what people want to hear, but it's because they might say, oh, because we want to have it. They just didn't want to do it. That's why. That's what they wanted to do, and that's that. It's the same like why are they putting these games on Switch? Why are they doing this? Why are they doing this, that, and the other? Because they don't want to. They're just an old ass Japanese company that runs their business like it's still 2005, and that's it. That's the answer.
This kind of goes into the last question sort of asked by Blizz 2012, and I was curious how you'd feel about this as like someone who's not really played it. But for you, how do you feel as someone who knows that this experience is out there, but it won't be in the remake? How do you feel about the female protagonist not being there? Like, does it make you any less likely to buy the game because there's only the male protagonist?
No, but for me personally, no. I would still buy the game, and I'm someone who I like going back and playing older games or games you might consider retro now. So I don't mind go. I know some people are bothered. Oh, I don't like these graphics and da, da, da. It doesn't bother me at all. I can go back and play old games. I'll go back and play. I haven't played Persona 3 Portable yet, but I do intend to play that one. And so for me personally, the game in and of itself looks good for me to play. I know there's missing content, and I know the reason because of Atlus and their nonsense for sure. It's the reason, but it doesn't put me off personally. I do understand that there are some fans that are put off, or I think it's kind of like maybe that it's me speculating that there's some people feel like, well, Atlas isn't really listening to them because, like I said, I feel like one of the reasons people wanted this remake is because they wanted the complete version. Now that's one thing. If they do go and do this, put that stuff in as DLC, that is just complete BS. That's just I actually think that would be like kind of a slap in the face if they did that. So hopefully they say, well, we don't want to do this, and that's the reason. And maybe this game launches and there's no DLC, and maybe that happens. Let's wait and see.
Well, Jodie, I cannot thank you enough for coming on and talking.
Thank you for having me
and educating all of us plebeians over here on a nice, lovely
well,
hot
the thing
Sunday.
is, it's very hot. I'm just a regular Joe Schmo. All the information and sales figures that I spoke about, anyone can go and find that same information for themselves and draw their own conclusions. I've just given my own personal opinions. It doesn't mean that anything that I say is the gospel or is going to happen or isn't going to happen, whatever. It's just purely my own opinion based on publicly available data.
Well, my opinion is that you should instead refer to yourself as a Jodie Schmody. I think that sounds much better.
I don't know about that. Oh, that's funny. Maybe I should. I don't know. Actually, no, I won't.
But yeah, so I've got to wrap us up faster than planned because, as is tradition, I'm terrible at time management. But I wanted to first thank you for coming on, and also everyone watching live, whether they're watching right now or the edited version that'll be going up later tonight. But thank you guys so much for watching. But yeah, before we go, real quick, where do you want people to go and stalk you, Jodie?
Okay, so my YouTube channel, my renamed YouTube channel, is called Game Corner Shop. That's all one word. So it's youtube.com/ and then you can do like sign game corner shop, or you can just do it without the @ as well. That's my YouTube channel where I have weekly long form call-in discussion shows where we talk about the Japanese market. You can also find me on Twitter, which is at Jodie D. So that's JODIEDE. And I also have a Discord. I can't give you a link to that. Maybe I'll ask Spencer to put it in the description. I also have a Discord server where we discuss the video game sales, and also that facilitates calling into the show.
Okay, perfect. And yeah, I already have all your links in the show description for YouTube, and the audio will be the same as well, where people can find the page and channel and everything else like that. So, everyone, make sure to go give a like and subscribe and check out and do the call-in shows. It's always very fun. I'm always sad I do not get to jump in as much as I used to, but Jodie, thank you for the last almost 2 hours. I hope you enjoy whatever's left of your weekend.
Thank you. We're just a few hours.
And good luck beating up the delivery man and getting your copy of 16.
Oh my god, I gotta go and get that tomorrow. Yes. Yes, thank you. No, thanks, everyone.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Have a good rest of your night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Now we're free.